Good evening. Well, in the last video, I was cutting out this piece to put on the starboard side of the foredeck. And I'm still not sure how I'm going to finish the top of this, but this okumi is beautiful, and so I'm thinking that we may go ahead and try to finish it off natural, even though I have to screw it down. And so these screw holes are going to show. I may be able to fill these with thickened epoxy with sawdust off of the okumi, and hopefully maybe get to where I can cover up the screw heads. So in an effort to do that, then I've got to countersink this. Now, part of the trick with this is that all the framing, all the deck beams are all white oak, and it's very hard. I am using a countersink bit like this and using bronze screws. The bronze screws are number 8s and 1 1/4 inch long. The plywood is just almost 1/2 inch, so that gives me about 3/4 inch to go down into the yoke. What I'm finding is when I go to drill and countersink, you got to try to get all the sawdust out of the hole, because if you don't, and you try to drive the screw in there, it just starts binding up in there. And these screws are softer than, say, like even the stainless steel ones. And so what happens then is, and in this forward hole right here, what happened is I broke this screw off. I was almost down to where it was almost tight, and I tried to give it a good twist to make sure it was good and tight, and then all of a sudden it was just turning freely, and I knew what had happened. So you can see that, maybe you can see, that it took about, I don't know, 3/8 inch off of the end of it. And so of course that was buried down in the oak, in the deck beam. So the only way to get it out of there, and this was a critical one, you know, sometimes you can just drill another hole next to it, but this was critical because it's right on this corner, and I'm trying to hold this up against this king plank. So I took just a regular drill bit. This was a 7/64, and went down in there and basically drilled out the metal that was in the hole. And I could tell when I did it because it started coming up there, and you see all these little teeny tiny metal shavings of the bronze. So I got it out of there, and then I got the screw in there. In an effort to try to keep that from happening anymore, I start screwing the screw in there, and then if it won't go or it starts getting too tight, I just back it out and take the bit and go back in there and see if I can pull any more sawdust out of it. Now, I changed bits. I had, and I'm actually using 2. I had this one, and this one's real pointy on the end, and I'm not sure who makes this one, but then this countersink bit is made by Bosch, and it's not tapered on the end here, where this one is. So what I'm finding is that since this is fairly wide, uniformly the whole length of the shaft, when I'm getting that down in the hole, even in the very pointy end where the teeny end of the screw goes, I'm getting more of the sawdust out of there. But even so, like this one here right now, I started with this one, then I went back in there with this one, and it's still like I can pull more out of there. And then it doesn't want to come out of there, so then I've been taking the vacuum cleaner and trying to suck it out with that. So it's just very slow going. I got this new ratchet driver for Christmas, and this is a pretty interesting tool, and it works really good as long as it doesn't bind up too much. So we may get this one to go in there. It's getting tight. Don't twist it off. I don't want to do that anymore. Back it back out of there. We'll just try to get any more out of there if we can. I could see it, and then it didn't come out. Let's try to get it out with a vacuum. Yeah, I believe that's going to go this time. Awesome. So now I went along the king plank first because this is going to have to bend down, and so I believe I'm going to bring screws along these beams from the center out to the edges, and then we'll have a little bit more trimming to do here along this carlin, and I'm going to want to make sure and sand that so it's got the same bevel angle as the carlin does, because the combing will have to fit up on here. So anyway, it's coming. I guess we call this episode How to Not Screw. Or not. This is very exacting work, and it's not going exactly the way I want it to. This plywood's pretty thick, so it doesn't really want to bend very easily, and I'm going to have to force it a little bit. What I'm running into is we've got from the front here, it comes down like that. It comes up at the bow, which is by design, and then it goes down gently as it comes down through where the king plank is. Then, as it comes over to the edges, it's got a curve. You can see the curve of the deck beams over on this side. And what I'm fearful of is that I've sanded it off too much on the edges, because what I'm running into is that I can't get it to lay down flush against the shear. I can get it to lay down pretty good back here. I think I'll be able to get that pulled down and screwed down, but like maybe you can see under the stop. You can see under here, it's like I sanded off just too much right on the edge of that deck beam. I cannot get that to bend all the way down. I'm going to have to take this thing off of here. And so far I've got about 11 screws in there, so just take them out. And I think what I'm going to have to do then is pay attention to what these are like here. I can even see it right there if I look at it. You can see how it suddenly comes and dips down. It's because I sanded these all off to get nice and smooth on the shear, but I didn't come on up in here. I didn't think it was going to make that much difference. But I want it right, so we'll just take this off and smooth it down. Okay, more later. So I pulled it all back up, went in, sanded down the deck beams, and then screwed it back down. I took some of these still shots just so that you can see how complex these curves are. It curves up there at the bow, but then it curves off over onto the edges at the shear line. So just trying to make the plywood do kind of what it doesn't want to. I think we're about as good as we're going to get, and the saving grace is there a piece of molding that goes on along the shear line that I should be able to seal up any other gap over there. So anyway, looking pretty good. Thanks for watching. See you the next time. Remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. Also, look for Jenkins Boat Works on Facebook too.